NERDSoul.
Why are you a black man in love? Welcome once again, everybody, to Black Together, a walk in her shoes. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Lady Lisa, and I am here with my sister cousin, partner in crime, Madam Butterfly. Say hello.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.
All right. We have a new topic today. We are going to be talking about Meghan Markle, since that is popping in the news right now. And we thought it would be cool to talk about too, since we just had an episode about the Princess and the Frog. So we thought we'd talk about Meghan Markle, who we consider a princess. So we're talking about her, race, and royalty. So this is pretty much going to be discussing the interview that she and Prince Harry had with Oprah Winfrey. But before we go any further, we want to, as always, thank NERDSoul for allowing us to be on his platform. You can find him and his many, many videos on YouTube at That NERDSoul. You can also check out his merchandise on shop.nerdsoul.com. He has a variety of videos on movie reviews, comic books, pretty much anything in the Black and Black geek culture. So check him out, That NERDSoul. So for this occasion, Madam Butterfly, what do we have in our shoebox?
We have a toy Velt princess dress up and play shoe, because today we are talking about when fantasy and reality collide, the Meghan Markle interview.
Yes, this is going to be quite interesting. The interview was interesting. I don't think there's anything that like blew people's mind. Or shouldn't have been anything that blew Black folks' minds. I don't think, some white people may have been shocked and appalled. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, let's jump right in. What were your overall thoughts and feelings about the interview?
I mean, I think it was a very candid interview. Mm-hmm. I could appreciate what appeared to be honesty and openness about what her experience was. I'm sure that it's difficult to share your truth and still be respectful and protective of your in-laws and your child's family, even if you decide to kind of write them off, as far as you having a personal relationship with them, your husband is still going to be a part of their lives. Your child is still going to be a part. So, I think she did a good job of communicating the struggles that she was having without disparaging anyone or, anything like that. So, I thought it was pretty good. What about you?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because that's actually a conversation that we were having as we were watching it over here throughout the whole thing, because we watched and paused. That's pretty much how we watch stuff. We watch and pause and talk. And, NERDSoul was like, I don't understand. She's gonna tell who it was. She's gonna tell it. And I'm just like, but I said, I have sympathy for her, because I understand that she's trying to be respectful. I said, now, if Prince Harry wants to call these people out by name, that's on him, because that's his family, that's his people. I said, but she doesn't want to do that, because that's going to affect him. She's trying to be respectful. You just don't want to do that. So I kind of felt bad for her in that sense, because she had to be so careful, and she was trying to tell what happened, but be careful, to make sure she didn't disparage anybody.
Right.
And I really respected her, for that, because I'm sure part of her wanted to be like, and it was her and it was him,
For sure. For sure.
But overall,
and especially, go ahead. Now I was just thinking, like, especially, the way she has been dragged in the media and all of that kind of stuff, and I'm sure that she knew that as soon as this went public, that whole fiasco was going to happen all over again,
Right.
where she was going to get dragged. So it's like, the how difficult that must have been,
Yeah.
because you really sometimes ugh, you
Yeah.
just want to get them, but you
Yeah.
can't. You have to toe the line.
Yeah. But overall, I felt hurt for her. I really did. I felt hurt for her because you could tell that she had just really been through and it was difficult. And just the way she talked about how she felt alone, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Then I can only imagine. I mean, she's on the other side of the world, away from all of her family and in this totally different culture, a totally different place. In this family that operates in a way that no one I'm sure can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So I really felt bad for her, but I also was thinking at the same time, this man loves her.
For
I
sure.
mean, this man has pretty much given up all that he's ever known,
Yeah.
ever. Um, to have a life with his wife and his child and make sure that his wife is happy and protected. And that's a huge sacrifice for him. So I'm like, he loves her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Um, on another note, I thought about, in a sense, you know, it's kind of like a mutual uh saving, so to speak.
Mhm.
Meghan is being mistreated, in this position, and he spoke of being trapped,
Mhm.
in this institution. And under any other circumstance, he wouldn't have been able to leave. But
Mhm.
because he was attached to her, that gave him an opportunity to break away. And, it kind of made me think about, watching the Scientology um, series
Mhm.
on Netflix, and
Mhm.
just, kind of being torn, especially for the people who were born into it or were in it from a very young age, and just how difficult it must have been to watch someone that you love be mistreated, to watch the so-called quote code of ethics or whatever being changed in relation to your child. Like, all of
Right.
these new measures are in place. We're no longer following hundreds of
Mhm.
years of tradition, and at the same time, these are people that you love. So, you know, how exactly do you reconcile that? And, it's not just a breakdown in a family relationship. This is
Mhm.
a monarchy. It's so much bigger than him. He represents a, a lot. He's a figurehead. You know what I
Right.
mean? So to just to step away from that is a huge deal. Just in terms of that whole history. For
Mhm.
Americans, we don't really, it really doesn't matter to us in the way that it does over there. But
Mhm.
it's a big deal.
It's a really big deal. I just thought it was just really the whole thing was just really interesting. But what interested you or surprised you most in the interview?
Um, she just seemed incredibly naive to me. Um, and I've in the conversations that I've personally had, or that I've heard other biracial children have, is that they felt like they had to choose between one side or the other, and typically whoever they were raised around more was how who they kind of gravitated towards. And so for her to be raised by a Black mother,
Uh-huh.
And for her to be what seemed to be so oblivious
Yeah.
to everything that goes with race. I mean, I know that she's fair skinned, but clearly she's not going to be mistaken for European by any stretch of the imagination. So it's just interesting to me how naive that she went into this thing, expecting to be embraced and just not really questioning or doing any type of research whatsoever on how that racial component, like how serious that could be.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That I think that's what surprised me most is that she just seemed totally oblivious to it. Like it seemed to be such a shock to her. And it's like, ma'am, you grew up in America,
Yeah.
okay? And I was thinking the same thing. You were raised by your visibly black mother,
Right.
right? And it makes me curious about how she grew up. It really does. It makes me really, really curious about her experiences, growing up, because I know that how she operated as an actress was, I feel like she passed. I really do. I feel like she passed. And for anyone listening that doesn't know what that means, it's kind of a old school term that refers to fair skinned black people who would pass as being white in order to gain more access or more privilege. If they were seen or someone mistook them for being white, they never corrected them. And they purposely, uh, tried to pass themselves off as white. And I feel like she did that. NERDSoul made a comment earlier. He was like, as long as she keep that perm tight, she's good. And it's true. You gotta keep that perm on point, because I'm gonna tell you, those roots show your roots.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, I just I thought about it, of course, in the context of the interview, but I also thought about it just generally speaking. When you enter into a relationship where there's a difference in race or ethnicity or culture or religion, like, don't you have a responsibility not only to do your due diligence to find out your partner's level of understanding and that type of thing, but also the family when you're talking about marriage? Because yes, you're marrying your partner, but you're also acquiring their family as well.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to know, how the family really feels about those differences, or what biases they may have about the groups that I belong to. And I mean, she may not have been given an honest answer if she asked, who knows, but to just be like, well, I didn't look, I didn't think it was important. Like, what, girl?
Yeah,
You didn't think it was important?
yeah, that was strange to me. To her whole state of oblivion, was just, it was very strange to me. But what was also strange is that it almost seems as if his family was cool with her until they had a child. Because things didn't really seem to blow up until she had a child. Because I think the powers that be started panicking, thinking about what their lineage was going to start looking like.
Right.
From that point forward. It's one thing, it's like, okay, we can suck it up, with its black wife, because she can kind of blend in. She's light enough. We don't like it. But then, along with the question of, well, how brown is the child gonna be? It's like, well, how am I supposed to know?
Right.
I don't know these things. I can't, like, peek in and be like, oh, he's getting a little toasty. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Y'all have seen biracial people. in your lifetime. They come in all shades, just like
Yes.
Black people do. Look, I don't know what you want me to tell you to make you feel better. I can't tell you that. You know, I can't tell you if she's gonna come out looking like Lena Horne or come out looking like Sammy Davis. I have no idea.
Boing, boing, boing.
Yeah, that question is just like a stupid question. I have no idea. It's like me going to you and asking you what color eyes is your white child gonna have. You don't know.
Right,
You have no
exactly.
idea. What color is their hair gonna be? I don't know. I don't know how far back in our lineage, her DNA is gonna reach. Because that's the other thing you don't know. Because
Right.
that they having a little girl. Look, we don't know what she gonna look like.
That's true.
You
Well,
know.
and the who I thought about was Tia Mowry, the
Mm-hmm.
sister, the twin sister. So one, they're biracial. One's
Mm-hmm.
married to a white man, one's married
Mm-hmm.
to a black man,
Mm-hmm.
and no, it's Tamara that's married to the white man, and her son is very fair skinned. I want to say he has either like blue or green or gray eyes, something like that. But her daughter, quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Her daughter has darker skin, darker eyes. There's no way to predict how all of that is going to line up. I mean, genetics are what they are. So
Yep.
it's interesting to me how they created this groundwork, the just in case kit, just in case he comes out browner than what we would like.
Right.
We
Which
gonna
is
have these
Eddie Brown.
right. Right. We got this whole other set of rules and circumstances
Mm-hmm.
for what's his name? Arnie?
Archie.
Archie, yeah, for good old Archie. We got a whole we decided we're gonna revise the playbook. Isn't that how it goes?
I'm
Isn't
like,
that how it works? It's like, kind of like, well, we're gonna end segregation, and we're gonna approve this integration thing, but now we're gonna introduce redlining and Jim Crow. We're gonna change the rules a little bit,
mm-hmm.
because we can't have people, that look like you
Yeah.
being outside of the box that we've created for you. So
Yeah.
we're gonna rework these rules. Y'all just relax, like
Yeah.
same formula. It's the
Yeah.
same formula.
It is. I mean, where do you think they learned it from? This is the original. this is these are the OG racists. Come on now.
Yes. OG
Um,
colonizers.
so
Indeed.
the thing is, I don't know. I think that is the biggest thing. Is just, why were you so shocked, ma'am? Why were you so oblivious to all of this? You grew up, again. So that makes me curious about how she grew up. It really, really
Mm-hmm.
does. Because despite her experience and how she was able to live in Hollywood, if you grew up as a little Black girl, I don't understand how you are just, there's a disconnect. I
Yeah.
really don't get it. So I think that's what stayed with me the most. But I know you wanted to talk about birthright.
Yeah. So, what we were kind of alluding to, as far as changing up the rules, there are certain birthrights that Archie is entitled to, being the son of Prince Harry. And, those things that's what was being manipulated, and what, Meghan was speaking on that she had an issue with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to think about that whole birthright thing, because, when you talk about, tribes and different regions of Africa and that type of thing, there are, birthrights. There are, these rituals of legacy being passed down and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know, do African American children have a birthright? you know? So let me back up a little bit because I wanted to make sure that I understood the term. And so I looked up the definition of what birthright is. So let me say that for you to be able to put with the question.
Mm-hmm.
So a birthright is a particular right or possession or privilege one has from birth, especially as an eldest child. So in that context, are black children born into birthrights in America?
Honestly, the first thing I think of, that's a birthright is additional responsibility. It
Yeah.
seems when you're the eldest child, you're responsible for the younger
Mm-hmm.
children. You are held to a higher standard. You are the first of doing everything, so you pretty much setting up how things are going to go for the younger ones. If you mess up doing stuff, the other ones are going to be expected to mess up as well, and will miss out on certain privileges because the eldest one messed up. And so that's really the first thing I think of. Unfortunately, because of our history in this country, I can't really think of anything in terms of assets, that we in general inherit as a birthright.
That's
Is
powerful. That what you just now said was so powerful because the opposite of an asset is a liability.
mm,
So, do our African American is our birthright as African Americans in this country liability?
yes, unfortunately,
That's heavy.
it is. It
That
is.
is heavy.
Because if you think about it, I know for me, and I know for a lot of people, I've already thought about having the talk, as they call it now, with my son. He's only 3, but I've
Mm-hmm.
already thought about that. I think all the time about having to protect him and raise him in a certain way to make him very aware um, of his surroundings as a Black man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a liability, in and of itself. I'm already fearful for him, and he's only 3. I get anxiety sometimes thinking about, you know, as he grows and gets older and he wants a little bit of freedom to do regular things. I
Mm-hmm.
feel anxiety about that already. And he's only 3, because I see what we're living in. I see, um, I just see how more and more we're going back in time in terms
Mm-hmm.
of how Black people are treated, in terms of how Black people are killed. And, cops pretty much have a free for all. There's no accountability whatsoever. The law is twisted and turned and ignored, to allow, white men to just, you know, cut us down. And so we have, you know, we're born with that liability. Especially Black boys are born with that, where you automatically have to be on guard and careful
Mm-hmm.
about how you conduct yourself, about who you're around, your surroundings, all those things. And we're going back in time, because that sounds like something, that our grandparents, really would have talked to us about. It makes me think about, it was a story, I think, that um, Granny told me about Papa, when they had gone out to pick up ice, because of course back in the day everybody didn't have refrigerators, but they had to pick up a big block of ice for their
Mm-hmm.
for their ice box.
Mm-hmm.
And so Papa had to go meet this white man to get this block of ice, and the man had a dog with him, and the dog licked the ice. So Papa told him, "I don't want that anymore." And he said, "Boy, you better take this ice."
Wow.
you know it was nothing for him to do.
Right.
He's a grown man, and there was nothing for him to do. He had to take that ice.
Wow.
No.
And just to think, because, like, you know, we know what the physical presence of our grandfather. Our grandfather was not a little man by any stretch of the imagination. He was a very large man.
He almost had to duck to go through a doorway.
Yes. And so just thinking about that experience and his physicality and how emasculating that whole situation was. And really, it's like, well, what could he have done? Especially in that time, it would have been a death sentence.
Absolutely.
For him to respond in the way that is natural to any human being who's, you know, being treated in such a way. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, it just makes me think about things like that, you know, where we're just having to tell our boys, especially, you know, it's not even a matter of, oh, just be respectful, just like you would tell them to be respectful. It's like, no, you can be respectful all day. There are certain things you have to try and do to, I don't know, get in their good graces, still with the hope that they haven't decided they're going to kill a black man today.
Exactly. It's sad but true. It's sad but
true. So,
that is just, yeah.
So
it's such a, because, you know, I don't want for, you know, I don't want to come across as like doom and gloom. There's no, you know, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, none of that. But at the same time, like, there are realities that we experience. And, you know, the only way to rid yourselves of those realities is, first of all, you have to admit, you have to say out loud, these things are actually happening.
Yeah.
And then, you know, start making steps towards creating change, because, like you said, we are going back in time. And my thing would be, well, why are we going back in time? What is it that we are doing ourselves, independent of the system? What is it that we are doing that we are on auto repeat like Groundhog's Day? You know, because we have culpability too. That does not take away from, because I don't want anybody to, you know, miss what I'm saying here. The system is what it is. And it is designed to subjugate us. Period. Period. At the same time, there are loopholes in every system. And we have to figure out how to collectively maneuver within those loopholes, which is going to take unity, which is it's going to look different than what it has. It's going to look different than what we have done over the last 50 years. We may need to look at other ethnic groups, other minority groups, and see how they function in this same structure, and maybe emulate some of those behaviors. And we've talked about, like, the, you know, pooling resources by living in one house to, you know, to be able to get you know, in a different financial situation. You know, I mean, the system is always going to be what it is. So I'm not trying to make light or anything of that. What I'm talking about is progression. Right. You know what I mean? Progression in a meaningful way, not for individuals, but for us as a whole. Because we have individuals who have wealth. Right. You know what I mean? We have individuals who have education. And that's great. You know, that's no slight to them. But just as as a community, a collective, where is the progression? Why are we still marching and shouting about the same things?
Yeah.
That's problematic to me.
Yeah.
Even with the system that we have in place, because we are the pushers of culture. It like the fabric of art and music and fashion and everything that makes the Hollywood machine work, and all of that. Like, we are the main contributors to that.
Yeah.
So clearly we are intelligent and creative and inspiring. So what is it that we need to do to turn that inward, to push ourselves forward?
I honestly think we have to get out of survival mode, because I think that's where we are. I think we're stuck in survival mode and concern for me and mine. And we've been programmed to do such. But we have to get out of that programming. And I think that's really the key to it. I honestly think that we can, as a people, I think there's a good amount of us, in terms of when I say us, I mean Black people. I think there's a good amount of us that are still above water during this pandemic, right? And it's quite possible for us to come out on the other side better than we went in, right? And I really think that's a big reason why you have some of the powers that be that they ain't for the stimulus, they ain't for none of this, because I think they really do understand. Well, I know they understand. Just like with they're fighting against the minimum wage. It's funny to me that millionaires are fighting against minimum wage. I think that's really hilarious. But because they know there's power in finance, because there's freedom in finance. If we are able to get our hands on this money, then for those of us that haven't been affected as badly with the pandemic, meaning haven't lost a job, haven't gotten behind in rent and what have you, because we haven't lost our job, that means that we can actually pay off some debts. We may be able to buy a home or save, invest. And on top of that, for a lot of us, we've had time to be at home and research about investments. Look at this whole thing that happened with the stocks. Those people who did that weren't supposed to know how to do that or be able to do that. And they screamed and hollered foul. Where's the foul? Did they do anything illegal? No. They played by your shady rules. Those are your shady rules that y'all made up.
Right. But once again, that playbook, the rules change.
So yeah, I'm not sure how we got here, but
well, to bring it back to what got us here, we were talking about as far as the birthright of African Americans being a liability. So with that being said, and also taking into consideration what you said about being in survival mode, if your birthright is a liability and you are in survival mode, is it reasonable to assume that those with a positive birthright, when they attach themselves to Black people, are they basically destined to either renouncing that birthright or being stripped of it?
Ooh, that seems to be the case often. That is indeed the case for Prince Harry.
Indeed.
And I guarantee you, he did not see that coming.
Indeed.
Um, you know, it seems like he saw a lot, learned a lot about his family that hurt him,
Mm-hmm.
that shocked him. And I think it was just the final straw for him.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so I really, again, I really felt, I honestly felt for both of them because, you know, he just strikes me as someone, he just loves this woman, you know,
Yeah.
just point blank period. And I think he just wanted to live his life, you know, with her and be a prince and serve. And like she said, she had totally given up everything, you know,
Right.
all of her life to be with him. And she was totally focused on serving in that capacity, however they needed her to, as the prince's wife,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But you know, that they weren't having any parts of that. You know, it didn't matter that she was trying to do her best to assimilate and become a part and participate in all these things. Her
Mm-hmm.
blackness was so bothersome to them. It didn't matter about her dignity, her respect, her integrity, her intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
None of those things mattered. Her talent,
Yep. Yep.
nothing. Didn't matter.
Nothing.
There was nothing that she could do except turn white that was going to change their mind and their hearts
Well, but you
about
know
her.
what? It that may not have even done it either, because as I was listening to Prince Harry make comparisons to his mother
Mhm.
and how, you know, I mean, I can remember as a little girl how people were just drawn to Diana, and she
Mhm.
seemed like a very humble person, and you know, her activist work and all of that was very important to her, and you know, the people just were drawn to her in the same way that it seemed like people, you know, who didn't have this race issue
Mhm.
were drawn to Meghan. And so then I started wondering, well, is it, of course, in this situation, race is a huge factor. A step beyond that with Diana, is the secondary issue that you are not to outshine the legitimate, quote unquote, uh, members of the monarchy.
Mhm.
You know, because if you look at his brother's wife, she doesn't really, after the wedding happened,
Mhm.
you didn't really hear much about her. You didn't hear about, you know, people kind of clamoring or being drawn to her or anything like that. She kind of
Right.
played her position in the background.
Yeah.
So is there a component of that where it's like, listen, you are to be seen, not heard,
Mhm.
because you know the institution comes first, you
Yeah.
know, and we're certainly not going to let a person of color uh, be a legitimate member of this institution.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that all went, you know, went into play. I really do. Um, you know, I don't know. It seems, again, going back to, it seems really odd that she did no type of research. She seemed to ask no questions. And it also seems odd that Prince Harry didn't talk to her about some of these more difficult things. Um, because I'm pretty sure that part of what drew him to her was uh, characteristics about his mother he saw in her, right?
Mm, mm-hmm.
Um, so that being the case, you would think that he would also say, well, you know, I'm really going to have to cover her and protect her because they're not really keen on these women who are outspoken and are leaders and all of that. But it just seemed like they really thought it was just going to be, and we will live happily ever after and everything is going to be a-okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, the oblivion is what is really confusing me. Now, God bless them, because I mean, you should be able to, bring a nice, intelligent person home to your family and say, this is who I love, this is who I want to marry, and go on. But we're here on earth.
Right.
And, and we're living, again, Meghan grew up in America. Mm-hmm. And Prince Harry has grown up where he's grown up. So it's just, I just don't understand the naivete, if you will.
Yeah.
Of them both.
Both, exactly. Both of them. I mean, and maybe, as far as Prince Harry goes, maybe this was the eye-opening moment, or the eye-opening moments with his family. Maybe his family carried it a certain way around him, yeah, leading up to this, and never expected for this to happen, because really, I mean, the odds or the likelihood of him finding a Black woman and falling in love, like, who would have ever imagined that would happen? Just the likelihood of that was so slim. And so maybe there really was no need to have those types of conversations.
Right.
If you're in a palace and you're tucked away from, all of reality, you don't have to be around anybody that you don't want to be around. You only have like the highest echelon of people in your space, in your company. Do you really have to have those types of conversations? Right. Because you're not mingling with the commoners, right, so to say,
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's sad all around. I think they're going to be fine. I think it has to get to the point where they, especially Prince Harry, quite honestly, has to cope with, having his own family, but really not being a part, of that larger family. And it's unfortunate. It really, really is. And I know it's got to be hurtful for him. So, I don't know. Some people have the attitude of, oh, well, I'm not going to cry a river for them living in their $14 million, mansion. And I'm like, but clearly that doesn't buy happiness. Clearly that has nothing to do with what they've been through,
Right.
Because some people made that comment about, oh, they're living in this mansion, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's insensitive for them to do this now. And it's like, one has nothing to do with the other. Mm-hmm. Everybody is watching television and having a good time, going out, eating and, enjoying what you can enjoy during the pandemic. Are we going to get a talking to because how dare you enjoy this, or how dare you do other things except sit and talk about the pandemic the whole time? One has nothing to do with the other.
Right.
So,
and I guarantee that there's a millionaire somewhere who lost someone that they loved from COVID. Just like there was a person in poverty who lost someone that they loved from COVID. And the money did not change the pain. Absolutely. It did not change, the process of grieving, none of that. So, we tend to, as humans, we tend to look at the things that we wish that we had.
Right.
And when we see someone else with that, we equate that with, that person's life. Like they have no cause for any type of disruption to be going on in their life. And it's like, part of the human condition is, there is going to be conflict. There is going to be upset. There is going to be disappointment. Money does not shield you from that. Now, perhaps in having money, that may mean that your problems look a little bit different than someone that is in poverty when it's a financially based problem.
Yeah.
But as far as everything else, rich people and poor people cheat. Rich people and poor people murder and get murdered. You know what I mean? Like all of these things happen across the board, regardless of socioeconomics. So, you know, I think those types of comments are very dismissive. You know, this woman talked about how she had to go to a social event with her husband because she felt if she stayed home, she would kill herself.
Yeah, that's,
you know,
mind blowing.
Mind blowing. So to have that level of despair be dismissed simply because of somebody's bank account is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So, you know, because she couldn't sit home and dry her tears with her dollar bills and be okay.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So,
I mean, look at how many celebrities and you know, wealthy people have committed suicide. You know, if money was the problem solver for all things, why would that happen?
Yeah. Look at how shocked everybody was when Robin Williams.
Yeah.
It was like I don't understand. This man comes in the room, you know, making everybody laugh, and he's always smiling. But you know, then you look back and it's like, yeah, because he was trying to keep it together. That was his way of coping with whatever it was he had going on. And I mean, everybody was shocked.
Yeah.
So we go back to the question that we asked in the last episode when we talked about Princess and the Frog. So can we afford as Black girls and women to be captivated by fairy tales?
Clearly, no. I mean, we saw it in animation and in reality. You know what I mean? Like we have a real live Black princess. Well, I don't even know if she's classified as a princess now. I don't really know what the situation is, or you know, now that they have left the building.
She is Archie's mama.
Right.
They can't never take that from her.
Here's my thing. I think that there is a beauty in being swept away and captivated by the man that you love, you know, and I think that every woman should be able to experience that. Well, every person should be able to experience being completely submerged in love and chemistry and the friendship of their companion. I think that as Black people, we have to keep a toe in reality at all times, because there are so many elements that are waged against us at any given moment that we just don't have the luxury to just freely escape in, you know, completely into that fairy tale. So I think, you know, we can experience some of it, but you know, there has to be some level of logic and reason that stays through that. I don't know if I'm communicating that clearly, but what do you?
I know what you're saying. You know, I think we can afford and we should still kind of, you know, enjoy and kind of be captivated by these fairy tales. I don't think the fairy tale in and of itself is the issue. For me, with you know, Meghan and Harry, the issue clearly was she married this white man.
Yeah.
The issue is race and culture. That's the issue, because I posed the question, what would have happened if Meghan had married an African prince?
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't really think that's the issue. And with Princess and the Frog, her prince wasn't black,
Yeah. That's
you
true.
know. So that's really how I feel. I feel like, you know, I think it's important to, in the midst of everything else we have to deal with and endure as Black people, I really think it's important for us to still be able to enjoy the wonder of falling in love.
Mm.
You know, enjoy the magic, if you will, of that whole, you know, dating and courtship and, you know, just that amazing experience that it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to me, that can be wrapped up in fairy tales. Of course, when we watch these fairy tales, that is the big fairy tale of the feeling and the wonder of meeting this person and the time you spend and how you feel and all of that thing. That is what makes up the fairy tale. Without that, there really isn't a fairy tale. Without the element of love and the whole courtship and wonder and all of that. And I mean, to me, that's everybody in their lifetime should be able to feel that and experience that
Mm-hmm.
and see that. And I think with fairy tales, that's a child's really first experience, really seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important. And our Black children, boys and girls, deserve to see that and be able to enjoy that. Um, and you know, whether or not they can experience that, I'm trying to be very careful. I'm gonna go back to, if she had married a prince that was Black,
Mm-hmm.
what if? That's all I'm gonna say. What if? What
Yeah.
conversation will we be having right now?
It would be a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I definitely think that potentially could still be a problematic conversation because of culture. Like you said,
Absolutely,
you know, because race is a component and culture is a
absolutely.
component. But yeah, it would definitely be a different
Yeah,
conversation. Yeah.
I think I agree because, of course, you know, as African Americans, we have a very different culture from those in African nations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know, just like those in African nations have different cultures from each other.
Right.
Um, but in terms of the toxic vial that Meghan experienced, you know, from this family or the powers that be, whoever it was, I don't believe that would have been the case,
Right.
you know, at all. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna leave that there. So let's go ahead to our break and go on to in your Black business. We are still searching for someone, anyone, any Black business that wants free advertising, y'all. I mean, it's free. So if you have a Black business or you know someone who has a Black owned, Black operated business, and you would like for us to share it with everyone here, you can email us at, oh Lord, myperspective at gmail.com. That is spelled MYPHERSPECTIVE. That is my perspective, and that's perspective with an H. I'll spell it again. MYPHERSPECTIVE at gmail.com. You can email us, give us the name of your business, give us a brief description of what you know, what your business is about, and any other pertinent information along with your contact information. and we would love to share that. We want to support Black owned, Black run businesses. So please contact us. And also, our next segment is New Day's Resolution, where we just pretty much talk about meeting goals and focusing on your goals each day. And so we are encouraging everyone to every day just think of it, as you're kind of starting again. You're not focusing on what you didn't get done yesterday. You're focusing on what you can do today. Mm-hmm. So how are your New Day's resolutions going for you, Madam Butterfly?
I'm actually really excited with this whole healthy living journey that I've been on. I weigh myself every Monday. Mm-hmm. So from between this Monday and last Monday, I lost 6.6 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm really excited, like really, really excited.
That is huge.
Yeah. It hasn't been easy, but at the same time, it has been easy because my mindset is different. I'm looking at it differently, which, I talked about last week. Just focusing on each day as opposed to the daunting thought of what the overall goal is. I'm just doing the best that I can each day and going from there. So
look at that. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's amazing.
Thank you. How's the curriculum going? And then she exhales.
Well, I think I haven't worked on it, honestly, last night I didn't. I may have worked on it a bit the night before. So I think I've gotten to a point where I've gotten a little stuck. Had a little difficulty with, some of the content where I am. So I'm a little bit stuck. I know I have to keep pushing and keep going. But that's where I am, in all honesty. So.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know if I'm going to try to do it today either. Because I may just need a break from it.
Yeah.
I think I may be at that place where I just need a break from it because I find myself just kind of looking at it.
Yeah.
So I may just give myself, maybe I'll start back up, over the weekend or something. Because I feel like I'm at that point where I'm just looking at the paper. And it's looking at me.
And I watched TV till TV went off. Uh-oh.
Oh. Exactly. So I don't want to, get in a big old ball and die. So. Right.
Shout out to Lenny Williams.
There are some younger people that are so confused right now.
But, so confused. That's okay though.
Yeah, it's okay. Bless your heart. So yeah, I'm just gonna that's where I am with it, and I'm just gonna take a brief break from it and kind of regroup. So
I think that'll be good.
Yeah. So again, we just encouraging everybody, whatever, goals you have, try looking at it from the perspective of doing what you can each day, versus looking at it too far out, because that can be more intimidating and it might prompt you to kind of give up if you say, well, hey, I'm not going to meet that, goal down the line because I'm not or haven't done X, Y, and Z all this time. Because I think that's kind of what happens sometimes. So do what you can each day and give yourself a little grace, a little mercy, but still hold yourself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move on to footnotes. So this is just, a part that we have where we mention other things going on in the news outside of what our topic is today. So what do we have for footnotes today, Madam Butterfly?
Well, first, condolences go out to the family of Jameel French. He's a Canadian actor who is best known for his role as Dave Turner on the teen series Degrassi: The Next Generation. He passed away at the age of 29.
Oh
So,
wow.
yeah, prayers to his family, and we pray that he transitions well.
Yes.
So the next item in footnotes is something that has been trending lately, and that is the canceling of Pepe Le Pew.
Hmm.
Yes, a cartoon character. Uh, there's a discussion about canceling him, and this was all inspired by the family that the Dr. Seuss books.
Hmm.
There were 6 books that the family decided to remove from publication because there was racist imagery.
Right.
And through that whole process, there was a reporter, his name, or a columnist, his name's Charles Blow. Through that whole Dr. Seuss canceling himself, so to speak, with these 6 books, Mr. Blow said that Pepe Le Pew should be added to that to that list. He believes that Le Pew normalizes rape culture, and his the points that he wanted to drive home in his assessment was that Le Pew grabs and kisses, girls or strangers repeatedly without consent and against their will. And, the female struggles mightily to get away from him, but he won't release her. He locks the door to prevent her from escaping, and on and on. So Mr. Blow feels that Pepe Le Pew should be canceled, and people are starting to wonder if it's actually happening because Pepe Le Pew has not been featured in any of the current Warner Brothers TV projects, and it has been stated that he will not be in the Space Jam sequel. So, should we be canceling uh, things that aren't real?
It's no. I don't know what to do with this because again it's not real. I understand. I understand the basis of it. Because we talked about the importance of imagery when we talked about the
Right.
Princess Frog. So some people could argue with us and say that's not real. So it's not that we don't understand that. And I could understand if this was, a show for, tween, teens or preteens, for teens or preteens or something like that, but this is a cartoon and so much goes on in cartoons, that could be considered kind of, questionable, but it's a cartoon. I mean, how far do you want to go with this? Do you want to cancel, the Road Runner and Wile E. Coyote? Because Wile E. Coyote is stalking him. You know, there are several there's several accounts of attempted murder on both parts.
Oh, that's funny.
What do
That's
you?
funny.
I mean, you get what I'm saying? It's a cartoon.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's too funny. I don't know why it popped in my head. You think you gonna leave Ike? If you die, I'll kill you.
I mean, there's arson, assault. I mean, look at how many times that Daffy Duck has literally had his mouth smacked around his head. I mean, you know,
Yeah. You're right. Where is the line? Where do you stop? And especially when you're talking about when you start getting into things like Bugs Bunny and Tom and Jerry and you know Heckle and Jekyll, like all of those things where there's all of these racist tropes and you know it's I don't know like it, it's difficult because when you're talking about moments in time, you have I feel like you have to view it in the context of that time. I don't think it's really fair to assess something based on the quote unquote evolution of culture.
Mm.
It's not fair to view it in from that lens because that wasn't the place where those things were created. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, to as a woman that's 40 plus, if I look at my 20-year-old self and I start bashing my 20-year-old self for not knowing what I know now, you know,
Yeah.
I have evolved. And so where I was then is where I was, and where I am now is where I am. So, you know, it's just kind of, it's, I don't really know what to say about it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think honestly for me, I'm more on the side of it's a cartoon, and it's not to be taken literally. It's not to be taken as an example of how males and females interact. You know what I'm saying? It's being taken too literally. Because again, I understand people's concerns of imagery and how things look. Because just like there are certain movies that I think that were made back in the day that should not, necessarily be shown now. Like what was it, Birth of a Nation? The original, is that the right title?
I think so.
Birth of a Nation. Like, I don't see any reason, for that to be shown now. Should have been shown then. So things like that. But it's a cartoon, y'all. I mean, it's a cartoon. If you're worried about your child learning this behavior, then you need to get them from in front of TV and have a conversation with them. That's your problem, in terms of that. But,
Well, you know, I'm as you were talking, I was thinking about, attributing children's comprehension level
mm-hmm.
with adults, and you know, young children are not thinking about sex and sexuality, you know, in the sense of like, these cartoon age children or whatever, like, they're not thinking about sexuality and that type of thing. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that comes later. So like you said, with the whole teens and tweens thing, when they start looking at the male female dynamic, those relationships differently, I think that's when that type of messaging will resonate more with them. They just don't have, the little children just don't have that point of reference in sexuality to put that together.
Yeah, I agree. It's something that is just kind of funny. It's characters that are like being funny with each other, chasing after each other. I mean, and that type of thing, again, it's just done in cartoons. You see it with different characters, all the time. So I think it's a little bit much. I think they're really trying to do too much in terms of that cartoon. That's just how I feel about it. But whatever. Whatever. All right. So let's get back into our last part of this topic. So do you feel like Meghan will, or does she get her happily ever after?
Yeah, but not as a princess. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I don't. First of all, I'm very unclear on what his title is now, because typically when you flee your place of employment, you no longer have a job. So I'm not really sure if we should be calling him Prince Harry or the guy formerly known as Prince. Like, I don't really know what we should be saying as far as he's concerned. Uh, she can have her happily ever after, but it's not going to be what, obviously it's not going to be what they envisioned their life to be. It's not going to be at Buckingham Palace. You know what I mean? They're hiding out somewhere with a chicken coop, you know, paying for round the clock security.
They're in, I believe they're in Santa Barbara, but they're somewhere here in California.
Yeah. So, you know, they'll be able to have their nice sheltered cocoon, you know, and that may or may not last until Archie is old enough to really start going out there and exploring the world. And then it's, you know, it's going to be a new conversation, because you're talking about a new generation. You're talking about, you know, what legacy is going to be attached to that new generation, and, you know, how he's going to carry it. Like, is he going to be, you know, confrontational about what happened? Or is he going to be like, I'm just going to live my life and I'm not going to, you know, we don't know what his personality is going to be. We don't know what the daughter's personality is going to be. You know, they might be the catalyst to dismantle, you know, to dismantle this whole monarchy mess anyway.
Yeah. You know, yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. You know, I think she gets her happily ever after, but just not the way she thought. Mm-hmm. I think. But you know, she doesn't strike me as the whole royalty of it being important to her. You know, she doesn't strike me as having been drawn to him because he was a prince.
Right.
So, you know, I see it as she has someone that, you know, that is totally committed to her. You know, he's sacrificed all that he's ever known. He's sacrificed a lot, you know, to with her, just as she sacrificed her life to go and be with him. So they've both shown they're willing to sacrifice whatever to be with each other. So I think just in that, you know, they, you know, she gets her happily ever after. It's going to be, I think, a whole lot of pain, honestly, for them to go through and endure still, especially, I think, on his part, because of the rift with his family now.
Yeah.
And because it's so public, you know, he's not allowed to deal with or endure any of this privately. So yeah, this, you know, this whole thing has just been quite, you know, quite interesting. Especially how we as Americans, and I think as black women, have kind of been like, okay, a black princess, all right. You know, because I think that was really the appeal for black women, and even, you know, watching the wedding, because Americans, I think in general, have always had this sort of fascination, you know, with the royal family. But of course, more so black people. It's just like when Venus and Serena started playing tennis. We didn't care nothing about no tennis. So those were, you know, until Venus and Serena came up on the scene. We didn't care about tennis. We didn't care to learn in general, you know, about how it worked, the games or anything, until Venus and Serena. Let's just be real. So it's like, you know, as black folks, we've paid more attention to the royal family since Meghan. Right. It's just been what it is. So it's been really interesting, but it's also been interesting how, and NERDSoul made the point, he said, we seem to be really interested in her because she's black, but she doesn't seem to be interested in us because she's black.
Ding, ding, ding. Wow.
Oh, yeah. What a way you haven't heard her talk about anything to do with, in all her philanthropy. I mean, you know, this is gonna, I don't mean to sound this way. I mean, she's gone to Africa. She's gone to Africa. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, is she really interested is she interested in BLM? Is she, she's a woman of the people, right? What is the people?
Well.
And on that note, we're going to go ahead and
yeah, what a way to end the show. But I would like to give a special shout out to my prince, to my king. My husband is celebrating his birthday this Friday, March the 12th. I believe that's when the episode is going to drop. So I just want to say happy birthday, honey. I love you so much. Thank you so much for choosing me to be your wife. It is the greatest gift and blessing of my life, and I appreciate you so much. So happy birthday, honey.
Oh, happy birthday. That's so sweet. But yes. Happy birthday. All right. So that is the end of our show. We would love, to hear what you guys think about what we have said. We are always open to comments. So please leave a comment below. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, just keep the conversation going. Again, we always want to thank NERDSoul for allowing us to be on this platform. Check him out on YouTube on That NERDSoul, and check out his merchandise on shop.nerdsoul.com. So that is it, and we will see you next time with a new topic. So bye, y'all.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.